I'm super excited for today's guest. Now, this guest is founder and managing partner of AHB Partners, which is a wholesale real estate firm. And they did $1 million in revenue last year, on track for $2 million in revenue this year. He has no college background. This is all at the age of 30 with no college experience. His dad is a rabbi, world traveler, trilingual, and becoming a life coach. And he was my roommate for a year and a half. Great parties, events together, great conversations. So this is kind of a continuation. And I'm super excited to introduce Meir Tenenbaum. So why don't you just walk me a little through your journey from you finished high school to where you are today, where you have this amazing company, your founder, managing partner, on track for $2 million in revenue this year.
Of course, man. First, I want to say thank you for having me on. Thank you for everyone who was here as well to make this possible. And of course, being roommates with you for a year and a half was just the start. I remember when we started, it was just a phone call. Sure. And all it took was a quick phone call and be like, I think I can be roommates with this guy long term. And here we are, a few years later, still having good conversations, just a few cameras and microphones around us. So thank you, man. So my journey, I grew up, I was born in Israel. I moved to Miami when I was 6. My father, as you mentioned, is a rabbi, which I've always looked up to him for that because it's a beacon of spiritual light, for myself, for the community. So I've always come from that background of mentorship, of education, always being a leader. As Jews ourselves, we're told that we are the light upon the nation. There's a lot to uncover there of what exactly that means. And to me, it's no surprise that we're in the news all the day because we're the ones who are claiming that we're the light upon the nation. So there should be a lot of discrepancy between why are we the light and what are we doing to actually make that light perforate and be shining and not be dimming. So I think being a Yid and obviously having a father that is a rabbi gave me a lot of really big abstract perspectives on life, which allowed me to explore, gave me the confidence to be able to explore myself and the world and everything that's around me. So for me, the journey was going to yeshiva, learning critical thinking.
Yeshiva is, how do you explain it for the audience?
So yeshiva is basically an accelerated college program, even at a very young age, where you're already starting to learn Bible, text, Talmud, Mishnah, Torah, Rambam, and many, many other commentary. And from a young age, you really start, the biggest thing that I would say I came out from childhood and being raised Orthodox was the power of asking why. Everything is around asking why. Why is this? Why did he say that? Why is he arguing? Why is he talking? Why is he speaking? Why this word? Why this letter? Why this connotation? Why this paragraph? Why does it start here? Why does it stop here? There's a lot of whys being asked, which is what I truly believe is, as a people, and for myself included, also being the son of a rabbi, and I think in many of our conversations as well, we're always asking, why is this so? And that asking the question why is really what allows you, what I believe, to explore the next stage. It allows you to get deeper. Could be in a relationship, could be in business, could be in life, could be in even financial means, even your business. Why am I investing in this stock? Why am I not going into crypto? Why am I going into crypto? So the question why is honestly what I would say all of my education really came down to. And then you start answering how is that why being answered.
Yeah, so that basically gave you, my understanding, that gave you the foundation to feel confident in just going headfirst into starting a company? Because you started this when you were younger, right?
Yes.
How old were you when you started?
Yes. So when I first started out, I believe I was 25 years old, so about 5 years ago. But I was in the industry for 2 years before that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think you mentioned as well, I did not go to college. So, I mean, for me, I was basically learning in a seated position like I am right now for 23 years. And I was like, okay, learning in a seated position is great, but I have too much activity, I have too much energy. I want to go learn on my feet. I want to go meet people and learn that way. Be more of a social learner, not as much of a learner just in a seated position receiving information. I want to be more engaged in information, regardless of where that went. That was my intention, what I was initially going to go for. So all I did was, at that time, what I did best was play basketball. I played a lot of basketball teams, played basketball my whole life. I went to the park, knowing that I'm going to meet someone that's going to hopefully, see the light that I had in myself. He gave me a job. I worked with him for a year. He really taught me a lot about real estate. After that, I went on with a few partners to open up a company, and that went very well. And then it was 3 partners, so we broke that down to 1 partner. And then I put up my own company. And then over the years, realizing that it doesn't matter how much money you make. I mean, it does matter how much money you make, but doing a business with a partnership, to me, was way more rewarding, regardless, even if I was giving up 50% of my equity, because doing it with a friend is way more fun and way more engaging than doing it on my own. And that was a whole world of navigation of what it's like to work with a partner. But yeah, starting off was just throwing myself on the wall out there into the world and being like, let me go to YouTube University. I really do believe that I didn't go to college. I know you did. You have many degrees, 2 degrees. So I know, like, being in a room living with you, I was like, wow, like, I can every single day walk and see like Mendel's 2 big degrees, one for finance and I believe one for attorney or accounting.
3, but I didn't have it up. But
there was one missing.
Yeah. But you had plenty of wisdom. I don't think you have to do the college route. I respect both routes. Like, I know people that were very successful on both sides of the aisle. I think it's more, are you learning and applying it? That's like, sometimes I think we get very caught up in the methodology and that becomes the idol. So everyone, like, let's say people take college as, okay, it's a proxy for learning and whatever, being able to apply your knowledge to the world. And people forget, can we test that? Are you actually doing that? Versus like, I go to college, period. And that's with almost anything where people don't want to do the first principles approach of actually, for me, does this make sense? And just blindly apply the methodology and say, because I do the methodology, therefore I am, which doesn't always necessarily work.
The number one thing, Mendel, is you have to know where you're starting and where you're going. I think it was the owner of the Cincinnati Chiefs, Mr. Hunt, who was the one asked, what's your key to success? And he said it's very, very simple. You have to know what you're willing to give up, what you're willing to sacrifice, and then that will be the determination of how far you want to go. If someone's willing to sacrifice, let's say, 40 hours a week for their success, then they're going to have 40 hours worth of value. If someone's willing to do 120 hours, so to speak, they're going to be willing to sacrifice a lot more and they'll be able to get a lot further. So the most important thing is you have to know where you're going and where you're starting off. Now, stage 1 is where you're starting off. For me personally, I started off with 0. I started in debt. You know, I had started with student loans, $7,000 in debt. So I was like, okay, my starting point is to pay off the debt.
You didn't go to college? Or you
no,
from Yeshiva?
From Yeshiva, yes.
Oh, okay. So you were like on your own at an early age, which is
financially, yes.
Which do you think, because obviously I'm in the financial industry, you know, building wealth, etc. Do you think that helped you because you have to understand money younger? Like, you understand how bills work, or no?
I think it helped me in the sense that I didn't have a choice. Like, there was a brick wall with spikes on it about 3 inches away from my back. There was no choice. Like, if I wanted to move out of my parents' house and I wanted to buy a car and eat a nicer burger that week or buy French fries and sushi, there's no money where it comes from. It had to be coming from internally. So for sure, the fact that I had a brick wall with spikes on it 2 inches away from my back, it was a natural force of propellant going forward. There was no option. And I think sometimes, funny enough, not having an option to succeed will actually make you succeed. Versus if you have so many different options that you're going through or towards, you get lost in like the choice fallacy, where you have so much choice where you actually start reducing your ability to choose because you can choose anything that you want.
Yeah, it's funny. I really agree with that point. I always give the analogy, like back in the day when someone wants to conquer the island, what would the general do? They would burn the boats. Why would they burn the boats? Because when you burn the boats, you have no choice but to conquer it. You can't leave. But once you say, oh, I can leave, I can go here, you're not going to have the same mental fortitude. It's not even close when your back is against the wall. And I remember before I started my business, where we were talking about, you're very comfortable right now. And it's different. Once like you're back against the wall, you're willing to do more things. You're able to tolerate more rejection. You're willing to make yourself a lot more uncomfortable when you have no choice versus like, do I really need to do this? Most people are not going to have the fortitude to go through with that. So I'm really curious to know. So obviously you're very young. You start this. What gave you the confidence and the ability to be, hey, I could perform at a high level in business at such a young age? A lot of people, they wait years to start if they even start on their own.
Yeah, so honestly, I mean, where the confidence came from has to be from my upbringing. My parents, my mom and dad raised us incredibly well, always taught us the more values of life. And I remember one day, I think my second deal I was trying to work on, it was a back and forth. We were talking for already weeks on end, and I'm already sent her the contract 5 times. I'm waiting for her to sign. I know it's going to be a good deal for us both. It makes sense for us both. And I'm like, something's missing over here. I'm not sure why this deal is not getting signed. Like, I've already said everything I need to do. Why is she just not signing this contract? Like, I'm giving her what she wants, you know, like, and I'm willing to buy it. And I remember those, like, okay, let me take a step back over here. I'm like, this has nothing to do with the number. It has nothing to do with the terms and conditions of the contract. It has nothing to do with any of this stuff. There's something else I'm missing over here that I need to hone in on. And I realized it was trust. And my whole life, and maybe your whole life as well, and many of us, like our parents, our teachers, our educators, the people around us, our friends, our family, always tell us, always do business with people you trust. Always be around with people that you trust. Trust. But I don't know what that meant. Like I wasn't sure what do you mean by trust. Like sure, like I can trust you, you can trust me, but if we have a contract, and that's the contract. Like I don't need to trust you, we have a contract that trusts us. And what I'm basically telling this lady, to bring this example out on this like second deal that I ever closed, was that she had zero hang up about anything else. I told her, listen, I forgot her name, but I told her, listen, we can sign a contract that says I'm going to buy the property for this amount, for this price, during this conditions, for this time period, and I'll close on it. But at the end of the day, if you don't trust me and I don't trust you, it makes no difference what we write on contracts. We can both go sue each other over the next 5 to 10 years, be in the negatives way before we even get to the positives, and we can ruin both of each other's lives by doing this. This has nothing to do with the contract. You have to figure out if you trust me or if you don't trust me. And if you don't trust me, then let's hang up the phone right now and move along. And if you do, then let's go ahead and get this thing signed. So to your point, I think trusting people and knowing what that actually means is what gave me the confidence to do that. I think it goes back to my parents, the education that we had. And ultimately, again, what I mentioned before, I didn't have a choice. Whether I had the confidence or whether I didn't, and I'm sure I was nervous, I'm sure I was embarrassed, I'm sure I messed up a long times along the way, but I didn't have a choice. I had to go forwards. And then obviously, forward motion is going to bring more forward motion. It's going to be a snowball effect. Well, one day, hopefully you rise your head up from the sand and you're like, oh, I'm succeeding.
Yeah, no, I love the part that you say about trust, because I think especially once you get to bigger transactions, so someone's selling their house to you, or like in my industry where you're managing people's money, or you're dealing with someone's money or financial well-being, they need to trust you. They're not going to sacrifice that most of the time. So that's a really good point. And then, so it's funny, when I met you, one of the first things that really stuck out to me was, I'm like, this guy thinks differently. Like obviously, I've encountered many people because I've traveled a lot. I lived in a lot of different places. And I was just like, the way this guy thinks is very different. And it seemed, I don't know if I could fully categorize it, like give it its full justice, but it just like, you didn't look at things, you looked at things on a very offensive way. Like, oh, why can't I get this? Why can't I get that? Or additionally, like kind of like no limitations. And very first principles approach. So is that something natural, or is that over time in business you develop that?
Could I ask you, like, what do you mean by, like, can you describe it a bit better? Is it more like, first of all, thank you for saying that. But are you talking about, like, a perspective that was built, or just, like, the natural way of someone doing things? Like, what do you mean to, like, describe your question?
I guess, like, you're always just like, why can't I do more? Or why can't I get this? Why can't I guess most people that I encounter, they're a lot of times very defensive. They're just like, let me keep everything safe and, just keep doing the status quo. Versus you is like, okay, why can't my company double this year? Why can't my company triple this year? Or I don't have to show up. I could go travel here tomorrow. Kind of that mentality.
Right. I mean, it's a good question. I don't know if I fully know where it comes from or what's like the root of it or how it came about. But I would say to respond to it, like, to me, just more exciting.
Right.
It's just more exciting. Yeah. Like, if I knew where I had to be every day, and if I knew how much, so to speak, in business, how much money I was making every month, which I don't, I mean, I have an idea, but it just ruins my excitement for it. It ruins the ambiguity of it. Like, I like sometimes not knowing. I like having things sometimes not completely defined, which gives it the space to then it be defined by itself. Maybe I'll define it. Maybe my friend will define it. Maybe my relationship will define it. Maybe something else will define it. Like maybe the world itself, Hashem will define it. I don't know. For me, I enjoy not knowing where things could happen and being able to adjust accordingly, as opposed to having things very, very concrete and knowing where I'm eating, where I'm going, where I'm moving, where I'm talking, where I'm traveling, where I'm living. I like the ambiguity of it at times. Now, of course, there's many people that have the exact opposite effect. Like they like to know this is what I'm getting up, and there's a lot of strength in both sides. I think ideally you'd want to, combine both of them. Right. So like you actually create a stable thing for yourself. For me, it might come off as that because I grew up very more in a society where everything was kind of set out for you. And for me, like I kind of jumped to the other side of it. I'm like, wow, like let me not figure anything out. But over the years, I'm hoping that I'm creating more of a balance within it. But for me, to answer your question directly, to me, it's just more exciting.
Right.
There's more excitement. There's more unknowingness. And to me, not knowing is actually excitement.
Which is a very interesting, important point, because I feel like if you're doing entrepreneurship route, you kind of have to be comfortable with not knowing. Like there's inherently more uncertainty than, let's say, a regular corporate job. or like even let's say in the investing world, if you want like higher growth, you generally have to take on more uncertainty. There's higher reward, but you have to be willing to do that. And okay. So how did you know who to come and build on your team? Because obviously, to get to your level, you have to know who to bring on, who not to bring on.
That's a good question. That's the hardest part. Like, and I'm sure you've seen that in your life as well. Like the people aspect and who you surround yourself with. And I think there's many Mishnayot that describe this in the sense that, I mean, we have like in our worlds where it's like the 5 closest people you're around are the people who you're probably most resemble. And we also have this in Torah, written 3,000 plus years ago, that your environment dictates who you are. So we know these things to be true. And yeah, the people aspect in a business when it comes to hiring and retaining the right personnel has definitely been the hardest part of opening and running a business. I've had multiple partners, many of them who I'm very grateful towards for helping me move along the steps and building the company out to where it is today. And very grateful to my current partner right now who we've built this company together with over the past 2 years. But the people aspect is the hardest part because that's, again, what we're talking about. That's the unknown. You can do KPIs for how much money to spend every month, how many leads to get, how many conversions you need, how many talk time you need, how many contracts you have to send out, how much it costs you per contract, how much talk time you need to have, how much time people have to be in the office. All that's metrics that we've had for 2 years, and I can tell you exactly down to the millisecond of how much time it takes to close a deal, or in any situation like that. The one thing that there's no real metric for is the people aspect. If someone's wife is in labor, if someone has an emergency, if someone needs to move cities or countries or counties or states, whatever it might be. That's where like the people aspect is very difficult, but I've been blessed that the right people have come along at the right time, that I've been able to work with them. But that's definitely something that I'm still trying to figure out if there is a KPI for bringing good people.
Right. So you don't have any sort of like tells that you use to know.
I mean, there's like certain questions that I'm asking people like in interviews. Like my favorite one is like, what book are you currently reading? Or what are you doing to expand your education? And to me, I like to work with people who also want to be growing. Typically, people who want the 9 to 5s and they want the 40-hour work weeks, typically not going to work very well in our company because we're always trying to strive, and we're a small boutique company, but we want people to strive with us. So if someone's going to be more of like, let me clock in, clock out, for us, it's not going to work out. So we're asking questions to determine who's a better fit, but we want people to grow with us. That's the most important part of having a company. You get to actually provide an opportunity, not just for yourself, but for people around you to also, build their wealth.
And do you find that you try to find a counterbalance? Because obviously we were discussing earlier as far as like both aspects are important. Like some people obviously much more geared towards higher risk, more possibilities for outcomes. Certain people, they need that certainty. Do you find that you do that, or you want to have someone that's wired the same way you are?
No, definitely don't want another me. I want someone better than me. I want someone smarter than me. I want someone that's better on the phone than me for sure. But I will say this, what I have seen with the people that have come in, the people who have the military background or a sports background that have done like professional sports or even semi-pro sports end up working out well in our company. And I would say that is because that requires a lot of structure. To be on a sports team, you're waking up early, you're going to the gym, you're working out, you're not drinking certain drinks, you're not eating certain foods. You're arranging your whole entire lifestyle towards being the best at your sport. And in the military, I didn't go myself, but in our company right now, we have 3 people who went to the military, right? I'm the only one that actually didn't go to the military. So that having that background of structure, I think is what has worked out best for us. Because as a company, owning and running a company, you have an idea of what works out. So you want people that you can come in, train them, teach them how it goes. Of course, they're bringing their input, and each one brings their own spice, which makes it more interesting. But you have an idea of what works, and you want someone who's coachable, agreeable, that you can plug in, and they themselves can see success in the business as well. But that's been the main 2 backgrounds we've seen as being successful, which is military and sports background.
And so obviously you're doing a lot of sales, so to speak. Yeah. What are some nuggets you have regarding whether it's interacting with people or sales in general? If there's something that comes to the top of your head.
I mean, there's so much. Sales is a world. It's high level communication. I think a lot of people don't talk about the fact that many people are taking advantage of others. There's a lot of people being taken advantage of, and they're sold a dream, and then they're cut through. So you have to be very, very careful when you're doing sales. to really say what you mean and don't say those extra words that might get you the deal, but you can't commit to. I think that's a very, very important part that we've done, I hope, better and better on every single year. But when it comes to sales, I mean, there's KPIs for it. The longer that you spend on the phone, the more conversations that you have, the better off you're going to be. The more sales you'll be able to close. But at the same time, like, you have to believe in what you're doing. Are you helping people or you're not? People talk about cash advance as it's a very shark business, as you're hurting people's lives. That could be true for some companies. That could be untrue for other companies. I'm sure there's many people that without the cash advance that they're getting, they won't be able to run their business and feed their wife and kids and family. So you just have to see what side of the business you're on, as long as you're doing it correctly. But you're asking specifically in terms of like sales nuggets. I mean, I don't know if something
those are
comes to
great
mind
because I honestly, I'm very passionate about like, when you believe in what you do, yes, obviously it's technically a sale, but it's like, hey, I think this could help you, and my company facilitates that, and it's people are much more receptive to that than like you're trying to make things up or stuff like that. Like being honest, integrity, and believing in what your product, I think, is always, and I've seen that before from other people talking about sales. Like,
yeah, and Mendel, I'll tell you, like from our perspective, yeah, like we have to run a company like that's accredited, that's running business as smoothly as possible, but that's on the general, right? Like that's like the obvious. Like you want to run a sound company. I'd say on the specific, like every person is different. Some people you'd be shocked. They don't care about the price. They care about the transaction. They care about the speed. They care about how you treat them. They care about whether your politics align with their politics. They care about whether you know their area. Every client's really different. So the sales, honestly, I would say the number one thing I would say when it comes to sales, outside of the obviousness, is that you have to come to work and put in the time and make the calls and be trained and have a script and all that stuff. You have to be adaptable. You have to be able to adapt to the needs of other people. You have to be telling them how you are helping them. Mm-hmm. You will be helped on your end. You know that. You're running a company, you'll have that. But you have to show people why choosing you or selecting you or getting your service is going to make sense for them. It has to be all client-based. How are you actually helping them? But to do that, like we spoke earlier, you have to ask questions. Why are you selling? Where do you want to go? Do you have a place to go to? Do you have any artifacts in the house that you want to keep? Who lives in there with you? Why are you selling? All those things build a better picture, and it makes the people actually want to interact with you and work with you. Because many times we have people that we talk with years after the sale is done because they want to call in and have a quick 5-minute schmooze about how we're doing and wish us the best. So really nurturing those relationships is, I would say, one of the best skills in being sales is the adaptability of being able to talk to multiple clients on their spectrum and on their level.
Yeah, and it's funny. Before this podcast, I did a little research. I looked at your website. I was very impressed. You had a lot of good testimonials. So you're obviously doing a great job there. I want to shift a little to perspective. So I know you travel a lot, right? So, and I also love traveling. So I'm really curious to hear how that has helped you and changed your perspective and opened your mind up to new things.
Yeah, I think travel for me is just, there's a bug. Like there's a bug that's nagging at me constantly. And I love the bug. There's nothing wrong with this bug. It just want to see more. Like I think God, Hashem, created the world with, I think we just recently crossed 8 billion people. And there is 250 plus countries. There's so many different cultures. There's so many different thoughts. There's so many different ideas. And traveling to me it allows me to expand my thinking, my thoughts of the world. It allows me to be more involved in the world that God created. I love to be as vivid. I like to live life as vividly as I can, and traveling does that for me because it's the same thing with knowledge. If you go to one country, say Mexico, and you see their cultures, you see how they dine, you see how they act, you see how they interact with people, and then you go to Thailand, you see how they interact and how they live life, and then you're living in the U.S., and then you go to Argentina, and you go to Bulgaria, and you go north and east and south, and you go all around, you are able to get a better perspective of yourself and your life overall. It's not that like each one is an individual, isolated country that has their own world. We're all connected. It's funny for me to see the patterns. Do people speak the same way? Do people act the same way? Do people work the same way? Do people interact with their surroundings in the same way? All those things are just interesting to me. It allows me to get a better holistic view of what this world is that I'm in. That's all it is for me. I like to relate with the people around me. It expands my perspective of the world. It gives me a more holistic view of it.
Interesting. I find.
It's also fun.
Oh yeah, it's
Maybe I
definitely
shouldn't
fun.
get to
What's some of your top? You have any top memories from traveling places?
so many, but I mean, for me, I like hiking. I like hiking.
Machu Picchu. You did Peru, right?
Yes, we did Peru. We did volcanoes in Chile, in Nicaragua. You like hiking as well, no?
Yeah, I love hiking, but I haven't done Peru yet, so that's why I haven't done
let's
Machu
go.
Picchu yet. I'm really thinking about it this summer. We'll see. So that's the good thing about Miami is you're close to all these Latin countries. You get just a quick flight. So it's funny when I travel, because sometimes it's normal because you're trying to do a lot of things. You get bogged in a routine. And so when you travel, you're out of your routine. So sometimes like ideas or thoughts or just your perspective is able to become sharper because you're outside of just the routine of, and not in a bad way, you need to have a routine to get what you need done, but like the same interactions or the same things over and over, it kind of breaks that flow. And at least for me, it's expansive.
For sure. You're in motion. I think as humans, we're social beings. Being in motion, like we always know, like being stagnant is degrading yourself. Being stagnant is not an option. You're either growing or you're not, you know? Being in motion, as social beings, we move, we interact. The more movement we have, I think the better it is for us. We don't get bogged down in our own shit. So movement and traveling is what really gives it to us. It opens up your mind to think different things. You get to see different cultures. You're asking about a quick story. I remember I was not too long ago in a place called Iguazu on the border. You've been there.
So I was on the Brazilian side. I don't know. Were you doing the Brazilian side or
the
Argentinian
both.
side? Okay.
I did both.
Nice.
But being in a place like that, like Iguazu, and I love that you were there, so you can probably relate to this. It was just so like, it was just awe. Like you can feel the presence of a greater being. Call it what you may. Just present. There's just no way. There's no way that there could be that much beauty in one location and there are waterfalls, you know, it's beautiful, the sun's shining, there's trees all around you in the middle of the jungle. You have to take a 2-hour flight into the jungle to go see this. And I spent 3 days there. It's just the awe. Like you don't feel like you need to do anything. You just need to be there. And that is enough to be there. So moments like that, I'm able to like take with me when I come back to Miami, back to my business, back to my day-to-day life over here and be like, I was there. I know that all the life has got purpose. It has meaning. It's like little moments of beacons that you can like take and apply to your day-to-day life. And like I try to collect them and bring them into my day-to-day life and use them as I can. But yeah, traveling and seeing like the beauty of the world that there is. Like God created it to go see it. He didn't create it for you to go watch on Instagram 100%. Or in TikTok. He created it so you can go visit it. You know? And there's a lot of beautiful places on earth. I think it's something that people should do a bit more often.
Oh, 100%. I don't think anyone really regrets it. I don't know. It says like, oh, I regret going on that trip. It also, for me, it does like a mental, I guess, like bookmark. Because sometimes it's like the days become blurry. You forget the days, but that's like I always recall that time when I went on that trip. It's always like it's a landmark in my head, which is very cool. And then also, I think just there's so many formative experiences for me where I learned so many life lessons because you're not tied in the specificity of your routine. You're able to see so many concepts that could be applied to everything, whether it's human psychology, whether it's problem solving, because sometimes you don't see the lesson or you're not forced to learn the lesson when you're doing the same day-to-day monotony. Maybe my stories are a little...
What's one of your stories, man, though?
Just so many. I mean, there's...
not Spain, though. Let's not talk about Spain.
As we met up in Spain, which was really fun. I'm trying to think of I mean, there was plenty of... We've had, but missing flight, not speaking the language. What else? We've had corrupt cops trying to get bribes from us. What else? When I was really young in college, I couldn't access my money, so I had to figure out how to get travel to the next place without any money in my wallet. So just like all these things, and then also learning how to interact with people, learning who to trust, I think builds very foundational skills for anything. Just like, hey, I'm not in my territory. I may not even speak the language. Problem solve, figure it out. And if I could figure it out here, why can't I figure it out in the United States? And so it's literally gave me a lot of confidence, especially at a young age, traveling 18, 19 yourself. It's very formative. And so I know also another thing for you is you're trying to do a life coach. So how did that transition?
So that happened with, I had 2 people that came to the company a few years ago. And at some point, like I just saw that like they were better than just working for us day-to-day life, and I was like, guys can start your own company. So I remember I fired this one friend of mine on the spot, and I'm like, you're fired. And he's like, what? No, like, what do you mean you're firing me? Like, how am I gonna make money? I'm like, no, I'm firing you because we're opening up your LLC today as well. And he's like, oh, okay, great, amazing. And I just, it was something that he wanted to do, and I just had to push him to get there. And he opened up his company, did very, very well in the beginning. And for the first 4 months, I remember I was like, not set in stone, but I was mentoring him. I was the one who was like helping him, guide him. And he did very, very well. And one day after 3-4 months of talking and building like his company out, he stopped calling me. And I called him right away, and I was like, hey, is everything okay? And he's like, no, everything's fine. Everything's going amazing. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you're supposed to call me and ask me questions and tell me what's going on. And that's when I realized, he's like, no, everything's okay. And that's when I realized, like, okay, like he's already gotten enough for me. Like, he's going to take his next steps now and go build out the rest of his company. And for me, like, not getting that call, not being able to adjust, help someone, be able to build their own company and at least motivate them, was like, wow, like that was my favorite part of this whole entire part. My favorite part was to help a friend be able to create his own wealth in the very little that I might have known at the time. So that's when I realized, okay, like I might have a knack for life coaching, and that's really where I found solace. That's where I found, like, I think my gifts that were given to me were all based people and just mentorship and guiding, helping people help themselves. Like, I'm not telling anybody that things that they don't already know. I'm mostly reminding people of things that they already know, and I'm not the one doing the work for them. They do it all on their own. I'm just there as a bouncing board. And I think that's something that, like, I learned very naturally by just having business, and I did this with another friend as well. And I fell in love with the idea, so I went to get my life coaching certificate, and something that I still need to be building out, but it's very much lies in, like, my, I think, gifts and passions.
Yeah, no, I think you'd be great. And also, I think I'm a special advocate for it, because when I wanted to start my financial advising firm, everyone was saying you can't do it, or this, all these things. You were the only one that actually knew what was going on. I had this random 22-year-old girl that all said I should do it, but like I don't think she had any context. She's like, yeah, start your own thing. But you were the only one that's like, yeah, you'd be very successful or whatever. And yeah, like that I was like, okay, like I appreciated that. So I was like, okay.
Of course.
I mean, I would think anyways you'd be good, but I was like, okay, this is also good.
Of course, you're right. Like I remember like having that conversation. I was like on my car driving back home, and like I remember you called me. Like to me, it was very like, I'm like, Mendel just needs to hear this from someone else. Like, there's nothing, I'm not telling him anything he already doesn't know. And I even told you on the call, I believe, I was like, Mendel, you already know what you're going to do. You just need to be told to do it. Like, you've already made the decision. You know, like, this is all the questions. For me in life coaching, the most important thing is, like, you're not telling people what to do. Like, it's not what a life coach is doing. But when someone tells you things and tells you things and tells you things, you can just tell them, like, hey, like, all you've been telling me is things that you want to be doing. Go ahead and do it. You know, like I'm not making up I'm not the one who came to me like, hey man, I think you should stop working at your corporate job that's paying you extremely well and go take a chance on yourself. Like that's something that you came about yourself. But you just kind of like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not? And I think you already had the answer, and it was just like helping you get that for yourself. Like me doing none of it. Like this is all your decision that you made. But it was obviously healthy, and I think good to have someone that you're by yourself, which is why I want to become a life coach, that you can bounce the information off. Yeah. Just how you describe the information to someone is indicative of where you'll probably end up going. And a good life coach is just going to tell you what you're already telling them. And then you yourself will make that realization and make your own decisions.
Which you did. So, disclaimer, he wanted to do a bunch of free hours. So he wanted to be really good at his craft. So he's like, I want to do whatever. I forget what the amount of hours you wanted to do. And you're like, can you do a coaching session with me? Now, I, before this, knew that I had to quit my job, right? And I was working on building it behind the scenes. And I did the introspection one day, and I listed out, you know, should I quit? Like the reasons why I should quit, the reasons why I should stay at my job and try to do both simultaneously or whatever it was. And it was like obvious to me. I'm like, okay, this is obvious I should quit. Like there's like 20 on this side, like maybe like a 1 on the other side. Like it's obvious to quit. But then it's like whatever, it's busy, it's the holiday, and it's like, okay, but you need the money, you're getting the corporate thing. And then it was right around the time where you did the coaching session. And I remember walking through, I was like, let's talk about this because we need to talk about something. And then I remember talking it through, And then I remember feeling just like the passion, because we were talking about two things. It's like either you do it simultaneously, both your corporate and this, or you just go all in the thing. And I remember feeling the passion and everything through going all in by myself. And I think you also pointed out like you were way more into it when you were talking about it. And I'm like, I need to quit this week. I think I quit it that week. I was like,
See, I was more excited than for you. I was like more excited about you doing your own thing than you were. Is that what you're saying?
No, I was just saying that you noticed it. You were like, I think you're like, yeah, notice that you're only talking about quitting, not, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was, so yeah, no, that's how I was like, okay.
I mean, look where we are now, man, though. Like, you have this setup, like, you're doing your podcast, you're having your conversations, building content, have your own company. Like, a lot of things people always forget. The mind is vain. Like, there's so many things that you have probably gone through and succeeded and won over yourself that you just don't remember because now you don't have to deal with them anymore. Like, let's say someone's trying to stop overspending, right? So your mind's always telling you, I'm overspending, and like, I need to stop. 1 month, you get down to it and you stop overspending. You just do it. And then you do a second month, and a third month, and a fourth month. That voice that's telling you to stop overspending is no longer there, which means you don't listen to it. Your mind, it never tells you, oh, good job. Like, remember that thing you stopped doing 3 months ago? It's like, you stopped it. That's why it's no longer on your periphery. The mind is vain when it comes to those things. You have to always like bring people back and remember, like I'm doing it right now with you. Remember where you were 4 months ago, man. Like when we spoke about these things, where we are literally 4 months later. Like, this is the proof of it. And the fact that you don't think about it anymore is because you've already gotten over it.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some inclusion of like, okay, wow, like I've done it. I made it. I've at least put it in motion, which is huge, man. So applaud you for that, man.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think you'd be a great life coach. And then also, so this is something I discussed earlier about the thing I noticed about you, but maybe my favorite trait about you, I mean, there's many things, but this one is you. So in the Jewish study, it's something called Lashon Hara, which is basically talking negatively about somebody for no reason. And it talks about, specifically in the Old Testament, I believe, where is it? It's in Leviticus. It talks about it. I think in Christianity there's something similar about not talking bad, but it's in the Talmud they elaborate saying it's considered as severe as like the 3 worst sins. It's a very bad thing, but it's very tempting for people. But I know you're very careful with it, which I really applaud you for. And I think, secondly, besides for that, just like from an energetic standpoint, when people are talking bad about people, it's just such a low vibration that it's just, if you could avoid it, like that's one way to, A, it's great for the people around you, but B, just for yourself. Like, it just, selfishly, it's also bad. So I wonder if you wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, I mean, you put it out beautifully. I mean, you don't need, like, you can obviously go deeper and get the philosophies and the reasons and the purpose and the experience of all of it. But like you just said, like, you know it's a lower vibration. Like, in your words, like, you know you shouldn't be talking about it. It feels good sometimes, like getting a juicy, good gossip, which is what Lashon Hara is. Like, sometimes like it's fascinating, you know? It's almost like, it's like watching a movie unfold, and it's real. But like you said, it's very simple in the sense that it's gossiping. Like, you yourself know that you shouldn't be gossiping, and you know it does zero good, and you can feel like the weight of it coming on you. But yeah, this is something that my mom had really instilled to me at a very young age.
I feel like it was the way you. Yeah. It seemed like it was something like ingrained in you. But that's awesome. That's
my mom is.
Unfortunately, I haven't met your mom yet.
You have not at the wedding. My
you're
brother's
right for
wedding.
A second, but it was like she was busy. I never had a conversation with her.
So my mom's the one who really instilled that into all of us, me and all my brothers. But it was something that she took on for herself. And believe me, I had to get it ingrained, because when I was at the Shabbos table and I was hanging out with my parents talking, and I wanted to say something and mention a name, my mom would always cut me down, you know? And I was like, no, I want to say this. And she would never allow me to say it. And like, after years of that happening, it becomes like instilled. So that's definitely trained to my mom. But I really do believe that going a bit more abstract and like the way the world runs is that we're humans. There's animals, there's plants, there's a lot of life all around us. The thing that separates us with every other bipedal or any other type of creature is that we have the power of communication and speech. So it really is what makes us human. One of many things, but it's really the power of speech, the power of using words. So also in creation, we're told that God did not create the world. He spoke the world into existence. We're using speech, which really now hones how strong speech is. I mean, God himself did not take his hands with Play-Doh and started creating the world with Africa here and Australia there and New Zealand over there. He didn't do that. He spoke it into existence. He said, let there be Australia, let there be Israel, let there be Europe, and those things came into existence. Same for the animals. So if God himself, his method of creation was speech and not like a molding of a Play-Doh or something, that tells you that speech is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely strong and powerful way of communication and of building and destroying worlds. So yes, I do believe that being human, being that is our uniqueness and what we are and built to communicate with words, and the fact that God created the world using speech, not a Play-Doh effect, that yeah, your words can literally build or destroy people, worlds, yourself. There's a lot of strength that comes in using the correct words. Obviously the correct emotions behind the words as well. But I do believe that speech is probably of the most effective things that we have in our lives that we can do in ourselves. And if someone wants to put it into effect, write some things that you want to say, do every single day or adjust in your life and just say it out loud. Put it in front of your mirror, write a few sentences, use those words. Go manipulate your own brain into believing those own things. Well, it's not really manipulation, but use words to yourself, positive words. We're all talking to our heads every single day either way, whether we want to do it out loud and maybe have some people think we're crazy, or if we want to do it internally and let nobody know about it, but you're doing it anyway. That is occurring. You are always speaking to yourself. You're having an internal dialogue. So the internal dialogue is hugely indicative of how you're going to be on the outside as well. I would love to have more people talk to themselves out loud if they're comfortable with it and just say nice things to themselves. You're beautiful, you're pretty, I love you, you're great, you're doing your best, or you could be doing better. People have like a little ick. It's like, ugh, I don't want to say those things to myself. But it's like, those things are only going to benefit you. They're not going to hurt you by saying good things to yourself. And that's power speech towards self, let alone power speech towards someone else, which is super impactful.
I couldn't agree more with that. I'm a big proponent of, what you believe about yourself is a lot of times comes true. Obviously, you have to put it into action, but you have to believe it first. So I think I forget her name. She won the silver medal she just won the silver medal. I forget if she's a swimmer. She's like 22 years old, but she basically talks about how she manifested her life, how she would say all these great things about herself, and she literally crafted her character. And I'm a big proponent of that too, where what I do is like, I need to really believe in myself and think I'm amazing in order to do big things. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to do it. If you think I'm terrible, how are you gonna have the wherewithal to do it? So how you speak even about yourself and how you view yourself is so powerful. I mean, there's a ton of stories about it. Russell Wilson's coach also, forget his name, he passed away recently, but he says a story about a guy who, he took the SATs, and he wasn't a good student, but they mixed up his test, and he got a crazy high score. And then as a result, he felt confident to go on all these business ventures. And then he finds out 10 years later, really his score was way lower. Wow. But just in his head thinking, wow, I could do this, I'm smart, or whatever it is, had such a huge impact. So I think the way you think about yourself, the way you talk about yourself, and obviously the way you talk about other people, like sometimes people you don't know, they may need just that compliment, or you noticing that specific character trait about them that gives them the confidence to take on whatever it is.
100%. In terms of the people, I want to say that like you're very rarely going to teach people something new about themselves. What you're going to be doing is reminding them, and that goes for relationships, friendships, partnerships. Just remind them. Because to teach somebody requires a lot. It requires how to think, how to educate, what kind of form they want to be learned. There's a lot of things, variables that come to how to teach someone something new. You need to have a basis. Don't try to teach someone something new. Just remind them of things that they already have in them, and it'll be much easier for them to relate that information as well. And to also mention another story about speech and the power of it is that this is a scientific study that was done with rice. It was a scientist that took rice into like 3 different mason jars, the same bag of rice, the same thing, they were all white. To one, they screamed at and said bad things to. The other one, they left neutral, and the other one, they spoke nice things to. And this is like an actual scientific study. You can look it up. I have to get the information on it. One of them, the one that was spoken back to turned what? Black. The neutral one turned yellowish. And the white one stayed white. This is rice. This is barely like a very low level of life, some type of life, a very low level. We know this with plants as well. Plants with music, and speaking on them, they grow better. This is not like pseudoscience. This is like scientific studies that were done in big colleges. We have to get the papers so that people can verify it for themselves. I've done it myself. I don't remember what the papers were, but what more do you need? Like, be nicer to yourself. It's only going to benefit you. It might be cringy at first, but you want to become better, go be better to yourself first.
Yeah, I love that. I love all those things like energy, manifestation. I think we're just scratching the surface. I mean, that study tells you. I've been told I need to wrap up, so I could go on forever. I mean, we've had many of these conversations, so I'm going to end it off with one last question. So, obviously, from the intro, we discussed, we know this individual, very successful, and he also has great values, and he's at a very young age. He's done all these things. What would your advice be to somebody that sees, oh, this is Mayor Tenenbaum. I want to do a little bit of what he's done, but at the same time still have great values, travel, all that sort of stuff. What would you recommend?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can give like
you can't replicate it. It's irreplicatable.
No, not at all. There's like almost like leaving something with one thing. I mean, I like working with people individually, because that way I think people need to get like individual attention that's designed to them. But I will say, I mean, give yourself a bit more slack. I think we have, in the age of social media, of TikTok, of Instagram, of Facebook, of Snapchat, of being able to see so many other people succeeding, or at least the visualization of seeing other people succeeding. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Give yourself some slack. Like, don't demand too much of yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. People have the tendency of being very hard on themselves and expecting so much more. I think age of anxiety, we have age of information, age of knowledge, age of AI. I think we have age of anxiety. I think mental health space will be one of the largest industries upcoming it's already upcoming, but in the next 15 to 20 years, I think it will be a massive industry, because people need it. People have so much uncertainty. People have to be a bit better to themselves, whether that's with speech, with words. You have some money, go buy yourself a sushi roll that you like. Go treat yourself to a trip. If you like giving gifts, go give someone in your life that you enjoy a little gift. Do little things in your life to appreciate for yourself. That would be like my thing. And then obviously there's a lot more towards there, but I think people can be a bit nicer toward themselves.
That's good. And what if somebody is all the other way, right? Like they're maybe, and maybe you disagree with this, they're like too nice to themselves and they just don't do anything. They're just like, I'm good. And
then have people around your life. Give yourself more responsibility. So then you're responsible for a wife, a kid, a partnership, a friendship, a roommate. Give yourself responsibility, and you'll flourish in the ability to give to others. Because giving is a huge joy. But if you don't have what to give to, and it's not to yourself, you have to give to yourself to be able to give to others. But find some responsibility in your life that you're able to commit to, and you'll find a joy outgrowth from there.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a great conversation. We could talk for hours, but this is the first one. We'll hopefully do it another time.
Thank you, Mendel. Thank you for having me on, man. And thank you for the team.
Yep.